Welcome to She Said Homestead, the podcast that explores homesteading from a range of perspectives. We're Sage and Michaela, two homesteaders, each with unique experiences, properties, and future goals for our homesteads. We're discussing various homesteading topics, sharing our personal experiences as women working full-time who are managing homesteads as well, and shining a light on the stories of other inspiring homesteaders.
Before we dive in, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoy our podcast, please consider leaving a review. It really helps us grow and share these homesteading stories with even more people. Hey there guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Michaela from Calico Cow Acres.
And I'm Sage from Terra Nova Acres, and we both have homesteads in Western North Carolina.
Today we have a very special guest on, and she is representing the seed company, Sow True Seed, which is a local company to us in Asheville. So we're super excited to have you here. Thank you, Brooke, for being here. Can you tell us a little bit more about you and what your role at Sow True Seed is?
Yes, yeah. So I've shifted from being the warehouse operations manager. So that means handling a lot of the online orders, and that is a large percentage of the business. We ship to all 50 states. So now I've shifted to being the purchaser of all the seeds. So right now our list is, it's growing every year of all of our different suppliers, and that includes local farmers as well. So currently I'm in the throes of putting together 2025 farmer contracts and ordering from seed houses that we can get a guaranteed supply of seed from that's open pollinated, non-GMO seed. But I still continue to help in the warehouse. Like right now we're super busy with orders. So the role is very dynamic. My title is the Director of Agriculture, but it's fun. I like working with a lot of the local farmers. I've known a few of them for several years now. So some of these relationships are new, and some I know the people, so that helps. And then just trying to open new pathways for farmers to grow diverse products for us that we know we can sell. Growing seed as a farmer is a great guaranteed, source of income that is shelf stable. So trying to convince people that it is a part of their farming process that they should be doing, and growing open pollinated seed. But yeah, a lot of seed ordering, seed organizing. I put everything in buckets, got to keep everything labeled. We have massive spreadsheets of start weights, end weights, like everything's calculated. So I love that. Along with my other coworkers, we have like a pod of us back there, and we're just like really organized, detail oriented people. And you kind of have to be to have, we have 600 varieties on the website, but in the cooler, there's way more than that. So to keep everything organized is a huge deal in the seed industry.
This sounds like my dream job.
I know. I'm like, this job really landed in my hat. Like, I went to UNCA. I was working at a restaurant in 2017 and was in between, like, my first year being graduated. I was like, what am I going to do? And then took a crazy vacation, came back and needed a job, and found this on Craigslist as being like the call person. And I didn't get the job because I did not know anything about gardening, but they needed help in the warehouse because they had just moved. And I was like, well, I love organizing. So that's how I got my job.
So what did you go to school for?
I did go to school for environmental studies, policy and management. So writing environmental policies. I even, at my time there, even sent a few to Obama about like Keystone Pipeline, stuff like that. So I was already interested in food, like especially the GMO stuff that was going on, and like all the laws and patents around food was pretty concerning to me. So I already knew a bit about how much in jeopardy the seed supply was. But then being able to have my job at Sow True, I've learned even more of the different types of seed and, way more about it than I was learning at UNCA. But I'd have to say that, like, beyond having computer skills and just being a hard worker, like, not too much of my degree is transferred at this moment, but that's okay. Like, I love what I'm doing. And some of the connections I've made and had at UNCA has been resourceful for Sow True. So
Hey, I went to school for architecture and I'm trying to be a YouTuber, so I don't I don't think
I
degrees matter.
I don't think so. I think it's the experience. Like growing as a person, meeting all these crazy new people, especially because UNCA wasn't your traditional like all these young people. I mean, I think the max amount of people there's 3,000, and half of them are older people. So it was just this huge diversity of different classes and groups of people, and I loved it. I think that's why I've stayed in Asheville or the area so much.
Before we get into the good stuff, let's ask you some smaller, kind of just get to know you questions. And this question has become a tradition at this point. We have to ask it. We must know, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
I think Chrissy said blue, so you're the second blue person we've gotten.
Ah, okay.
Usually it's green, but we're getting a little bit more diversity in here. What is your favorite variety that Sow True Seed offers?
There's so many. I have like connections with some of them.
Maybe it is a hard question.
I'd say like out of one that we've had for a little bit, because I'm bringing out a bunch of new stuff this year that I'm excited about. But I'd say winter squash South Anna butternut. It's a variety that's being grown up in Virginia by Edmund Frost. But that variety has been adapted for downy mildew resistance, and I grew it this year, and I got so many butternuts off of it, and it's just beautiful. And he's worked so hard. So that one I've been really excited about and been trying to promote to people to grow.
Well, I need to make a list. I'm gonna have to. I've already made 2 Sow True Seed orders this winter. I'm gonna have to make another one. Let me write that down.
Yeah, his is called Commonwealth Seed Company. Sorry. There's so many people, and it's like this job is getting to know all the farmers is new, so I feel like I'm having to like read everybody's profiles over and over again. I'm like having to learn so much about like 50 different people, and then in these few weeks I'm like, oh my gosh. So forgive me if I forget a few names and stuff.
That's okay. You can always look them up if
No
you need
judgment.
to.
I know,
Yeah.
that's what I just did.
How about the most underrated seed variety for gardeners?
It's hard with some of the I'm trying to think for like our growing area. I'm like, some things I'm like, oh, this does well, but then it just bolts really fast. And I'm like, this sucks. I mean, the most popular ones, like tomatoes, is the hardest one, so I'm not in favor. It's real; they're difficult. I'm trying to think of something. Really, bush beans. I am like, those are okay. That's what I'm gonna go with. Bush beans. You don't have to trellis them. They're do them all summer. You just direct seed them straight into the ground, and I just freeze mine straight, or I just go ahead and cook them up. But you can do 2 to 3 plantings in the summer, depending on how long your season is, because they do kind of phase out. But yeah, the minimal stuff that you have to do to have those, and the not having to trellis. I mean, the bean beetles are a thing, but that's going to be a thing with a lot of stuff that you're doing. And if you're like me and you have some time, you can be outside just squashing them and have some stress management. Also, like any of the organic sprays for that is great to use. BT, yeah, that's what I was using. Use that. That's great on everything. Yeah, bush beans, I'm a big fan. I'm like, they're so easy.
I'm so determined to grow better bush beans this year. I had deer last year eat all of mine every time I planted them.
No.
So mad.
Yeah, it's a thing to get them started. You do have to water them. I think that's my biggest thing with some of our customers. I'm like, all right, it rains, but with these harder seed coats, come on, like every day you should almost be watering, depending on your setup. But if you're a back home gardener, you probably have a nice water hose.
So, could you tell us a little bit about the history of Sow True Seed and like how or why it got started?
Yes. So True was founded in 2009 by Carol Curry. She lived in the area, and she was a well-established gardener, and also kind of an Asheville activist. She'd even been to DC a few times marching against Monsanto, and tried to be involved, or was involved in some of those lawsuits going on around that same time of 2009. So then she decided to start a seed company as an act to battle everything that's going on around seed. And so she made it her mission for the company to be only open pollinated seed and open source seeds that don't have patents around them. So, we are a member of the Open Source Seed Initiative Pledge. And then also she made it her mission to partner with as many local farmers as possible, because there are a lot of local people in this area, and especially Appalachia. Like, it's such an area known for these crazy varieties and people who have done a lot of subsistence farming. So yeah, she was able to, seed is not a huge investment. So overall, it's not like she bought some crazy building and had to do, for all in all, it's like a pretty good low investment company to start. And then it really took off. Things were going well. It's a known seed company locally here in Asheville, but Carol sold the company to us in 2022. So around COVID, that really was a huge resurgence for the company. Now it's like even more of a staple in the community. So that was pretty cool of Carol to be able to do that.
So then what is Sow True Seed's mission in providing seeds to the greater public?
The larger mission, I would say, for the company is keeping as many varieties open pollinated, but keeping them going and not losing varieties. That is a huge thing that's happened since, since hybrid varieties have been created. After World War II, we see this influx of chemicals and hybrid varieties happening. But then at that same time, you see all this decline in genetic diversity, especially amongst like the brassicas. Like, there's only not very many open pollinated broccolis or Brussels sprouts. Like, there's just these few staple varieties, and seed breeders are working on producing more. But keeping the genetic diversity there, but also, this year we're able to donate over 5,000 seed packets through our seed donation program. And that was divvied up to school gardens all across the country, community gardens all across the country. So that's also a big goal of the company. We're not a 501c3, but there is room within our budget to be able to do that for the community. Seeds that, may otherwise not be used. We do have to adhere to federal germination standards. So some things we can't sell, but still perfectly fine to use as long as you seed it a little heavy. So stuff like that, we love to donate. And then our time as well, we'll donate our time within the community locally to a few different community gardens and some of our seed growers where they could use help. And then also I wanted to say more about Carol's main goal with the company was to have seed that people didn't have to purchase every year. I think that's a huge thing about the seed market. It's one thing, you don't want to like over order and then stuff goes bad, but it's more about your ability to take those bush beans you grew and then put some of them back and have for next year. And they're good. And how that is, it's a whole knowledge that people are lost. So providing that, we have so much free stuff on our website that people can access on how to save seeds. So that is the larger mission of the company. And that is what Carol set forward for us that we still want to honor in the way that we want to run the company.
I also really enjoy that you have those seeds still available like year after year, because I always go into like gardening season with the intention to save seeds and then I never get around to it.
Yeah.
So I can just buy more.
Totally. Yeah. But if you don't want to, if that's what you do, like, don't need to, you need to restock. It is funny. It's like you see people in the store and they're like, all right, I'll see you next year. And I'm like, all right, one time. See you later.
Okay, I feel like you just listed a whole bunch of stuff that's really unique about Sow True Seed. Is there anything else in particular that's like unique about the company?
We're employee owned. We're a co-op, so that's pretty great. Being a co-op allows people access to join as an owner. You don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars and put all your personal stuff on the line. So that's pretty awesome that we were able to buy the company as employees, and there's 5 employee owners, and that is the majority of our employees. We're 8 people. So just to have that control over the company and, like-minded individuals who want to run things a certain way. We are all women owned, just, how it's like naturally happen. We're not like against men or anything. But it is nice to, you kind of like, you laugh about certain things a bit different, or like the conversations are different, but we're also we're a group of very hardworking women. So that's also uplifting as well. Yeah, it's just nice to have a group of people who want to do a good job and be supportive for our community and the larger community as a whole in the seed industry. And then also the whole education centered piece of Sow True. And we're trying, we have been growing that year after year, especially with our garden blog and the information that can come up for people online. I think the fact that keeping that free and open, especially after being in school and seeing how much private information there is out there that you have to pay for all these subscriptions and like stuff that the general public would never have access to. And it's great to work with growers as well who want to publish information and make it publicly available. That's a huge thing of mine that I've learned more and more about, how information is distributed. So it's great to be able to provide people the resources they need to succeed with these varieties instead of, safeguarding all this information.
That's really cool. I do reference the blog and stuff on there quite often because I'm so used to, I mean, I didn't garden for like my whole life or anything up in Michigan, but like I was used to Michigan, and like coming down here, I'm trying to reference like as local as possible. And I'm an hour from Asheville. I'm an hour east of Asheville. But still, it's like as local as I can get with a seed company.
So do you and your coworkers garden outside of work, or is there anybody who works for Sow True Seed who's just like, that's what they do for work and that's not what they want to do in their personal life?
No. Everyone's like very interested. Everyone has different capacities. We are all definitely home gardeners. I will say, like, because I'm recent homeowner, we bought our house this past April. But living in places before that you did not have the ability to garden, or you're like, why would I build all these raised beds? Like, I don't own this place. That's a thing. And a lot of people that we talk to come in the store, like a lot of people live in apartments around here. So that has been a struggle for people. But like me, for example, now that I own this place and have great sunlight, that's always been another issue of mine, is like I lived in a cabin before this that had no sunlight. So I would try so hard and nothing would grow. I knew I could get it to start, but to finish was not good. So yes, a lot of people, like one particular person, and they have been with the company the longest, like 15 years, and she just loves growing flowers. And that's great. It's like, you don't need to do the whole catalog. Do what works for you. I think that's the biggest part, is you don't want to keep doing something that fails and then you're like, why am I doing this?
That was something I was going to ask next, was if you guys have like a variety of styles of garden. Like some people do raised beds, some people just do flowers. Good mixed bag of people.
Yeah, I have access to a lot of the hog panel, like the whatever, I guess that's what my partner, he's in construction and they use that for the deck. So I'll get these like cut off pieces that are this wide. And I made these crazy trellises this year. That's where I grew a lot of the butternuts on, just to like see how it would work. I'm going to do tomatoes on it this next year. I've already like have a new plan. But yeah, it's like different resources that some of us have and like how they're making their gardens. One owner, she just purchased a house just a few weeks ago, and it came with all these native perennials on it already. So that'll be really cool for her. Yeah, it just kind of depends on what people have going on, but the will is there. I shall say that.
Okay, I have a potential request for you, because we usually do some like social media posts with like clips from the podcast. Would you be willing to try and get like a photo of like a few of the gardens, and like we could share some of the photos of your employees' gardens?
Yeah, I have a few I can definitely share of mine this past summer, and I can
Yeah,
try and get some more from other people.
I think that'd be really cool. The
No, yeah, it's
gardens.
kind of like some of it we keep internally amongst ourselves, but I'm like, gosh, gotta be putting it on social media more.
Yeah, I feel like sharing the gardens of Sow True Seed would be really cool. Just like what your guys'
Yeah,
gardens look like personally.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had crazy flowers this year. I did the whole cup flower mix. I was like, I'm gonna blow it up. And I had so many hummingbirds. Like, it was just so much fun for a long time. So even if it's not like you're growing all this food, just like the nature around it.
Yeah, for sure. What, if any, misconceptions do you think that the gardening community has around growing from seed?
I mean, it is like some of it does require equipment. There's no doubting that. Like, if you're going to start tomatoes and peppers in the next few weeks, like, you got to have the seed mat, you got to have the lights. So, those upward costs, like, I understand. But things that are direct seeded, like squash, beans, like more your summer stuff, I think that's some of the misconception is like people buy bean starts. I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, like I mean, whatever. If people are buying them or okra stars. I saw that and I was like, oh no. I think that's some of the misconceptions that certain things should not be bought as a transplant. I mean, if you're getting wild at your house, that's one thing, but like, don't buy that stuff from Lowe's. Like, that upsets me. Also, buying that stuff early. I'm like, know your frostings. They just want to make money off of you, so they don't care. They'll totally sell that stuff in April. So yeah, that's some of the misconceptions. I'm like, and we're trying to do a better job of displaying that information and having it readily available on the packets of like direct seed, like do not do as a transplant. Like some of the tap roots on things, you just shouldn't do that. I'd say like seeding rates. Oh my gosh, I'm bad about this too. Putting stuff like way too close together. I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's the more the merrier. But that's bad. Like, don't do that. You're not going to get anything out of it. So that's another misconception. Don't just jam stuff together. It really does not work that way. I mean, flowers, I got away with it, but I wasn't trying to like, I'm not growing all this food out of it. So that's another like starting things from seed. Like you're gonna have to thin some babies out. And some people don't like doing that. And then I'm like, well, now you're gonna kill everything. So yeah, that's another seed one. It is, you should look at the seed spacing. That is there for a reason.
I break that all the time. I will be
Oh
the
my
first
God.
to say that.
I'm terrible. And I know what an inch looks like.
The gardening rules in my world are vague suggestions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to point out that Sage starts her carrots from seed inside, so
We don't need to advertise that. It's just
you do it successfully, so it's fine.
I know that's the only way that I've been able to grow carrots is to start them
Hey,
inside. Isn't that insane?
some of it's like that, You're like, maybe it is worth it. And that's what's working for you. That's my whole thing. I'm like, well, clearly you've had experience and you know this doesn't work for you. It's just the people who like, they're like, this is what I do every year and this is how I do it. And I'm like, no.
Maybe the misconception around that is that there are rules. I'd like to think that.
I guess nature has some rules in place.
Learn the rules before you break them, I think, is
Mm-hmm.
how I usually recommend it to people.
That's valid.
Because I know I don't follow them. So I know that you have more than just seeds for sale. What else do you offer both online and in the brick and mortar store?
Yeah. So right now, this time of year, the beginning of the year, we put up all of our inventory for, you would call them pre-order products, or we call them seasonal live plants. Right now in March, we're about to do seed potatoes. We're getting like several thousand pounds of those in that we divvy up in 2-pound increments. Asparagus crowns, they're 2 years old versus starting from seed. Strawberry starts, onion starts, ground nuts. So that's all March. And then for June, you can pre-order sweet potato slips if you don't want to start your own. And then fall, we do garlic, potato onions, shallots, walking onions. I'm like, what else is on the list? So those are all the really fun live plants that we do. And some of them, like, you can't do from seed. You know, asparagus and rhubarb, like, we have the seed. It takes a long time. You can do it. And these are all heirloom, of course, varieties that we offer. But like potatoes, there's no potato seed. Like the potato itself is a seed. So that's kind of, it's like filling in those gaps for people. Like, okay, well, if you don't want to do the seed, like onions, the starts are great. Like onions are hard to do from seed. I mean, good luck. But the starts are pretty like, I mean, this year we're selling, in my opinion, is what is affordable. Because you get almost like 50 starts for I think $13. So you don't have a lot of onions. So that's fun. And then we do try and sell, you know, gardening equipment, supplies. We do have a line of handmade tools that are local from a vendor in Asheville. So that's pretty cool because a lot of that stuff is just, you know, stuff you see from China that you can keep reselling. We do have a lot of gifts and stuff in the store. You can purchase the gifts online as well, but the store, as y'all have seen, like, it's just so much fun to go into. Like, sometimes if I'm in the back and I need to see daylight because there's no other windows in that building, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go hang out in the store for a little bit. And I just love looking at everything. I'm probably like one of our top customers every year, like even with our discount. So it's fun to really engage with the products. I think that's in some of it dictates the products we carry. If some of us are like, hey, we think this would sell here, well, I know I'm gonna buy this. So that's kind of fun to do. On smaller orders, we can get away with stuff like that. But it's still, we're like finding our direction in the shop. It's fun to try some lines of products. It's really great to have things that do not expire or have to have a sell by date. That is so nice. Like selling a mug, I'm like, have that for years. But seeds, that is a whole nother thing about our job that is pretty intense, is the dating of the packets and germ testing to make sure you're all within your dates. But yeah, the store is developing. We just got a new store manager this past summer, Dawn. She's amazing. She worked at Lowe's for like 20 years. So she's like, this is awesome. And is very passionate about gardening. So I'm really excited to see what other products she's wanting to bring on and help us expand.
So you guys have a lot of the merch and artwork and everything that you just kind of talked about in your store, but a lot of your seed packets also have artwork on them. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and like how you guys choose which ones are going on which seed packets and all of that?
Yeah. So the artwork or the packet art program was an initiative originally years ago to have all, because we sell seeds wholesale. So if you were a local store and wanted to carry our seeds, you can. But the goal was to have all those artwork to try and differentiate ourselves from other seed packets, just like, because our regular seed packet, it's cute, but it's plain and boring. But these were just, you know, a lot of them are eye-catching. So that was the goal. And then we've gotten another employee owner, Chloe. She is our creative design director, and she's been with the company 5 years, but she's done a great job with every year. Like, she's really into the art, and we do a call to artists every year. And every year we've added 30 packets or so. Is kind of like what's manageable for us to do. And pay people appropriately to do it. But it's people from all over the country. It's not just Asheville. And on the back of the packet, it says the artist and where they're from. But it's I love the different mix of the art. Like, it's all different medias. So another part of my job is we have a seed packing machine. So I run this crazy machine and it packs packets, 700 packets an hour versus 200 packets an hour by your hands. You're going to get arthritis. So I love doing the packets. I do those packets on the machine. So I'm back there just looking at the artwork. I love all the new packets we've gotten, and it's fun I love it for all the flower varieties. I think it's so telling. Like, some of the squash, you're like, I know what this is going to look like. But some varieties that you're like, what? Like, it definitely helps them sell, I think. Because we put the artwork on the product online as well. So you can see it before you buy the packet. But I think it's a nice beginning of where the art packet started, was for the wholesale to try and, you know, get better sales for our packets. And then now it's just like integrated more into the, you know, what distinguishes us and what we love about the packets.
And when you record a seed haul and put it on YouTube, I'm telling you, people like to look at a picture. I've gotten yelled at before because I held up Johnny's Seeds packets that just had the name on it. People were like, boring. So thank you for giving all the lovely people something lovely to look at.
I know. I'm like, people frame the packets. Like, we get like crazy. I mean, we've got a bunch of them in like all throughout the warehouse. But yeah, it's cool to see what people do with it. The merch is really nice. That's kind of like a new thing. It's getting better and better every year. We're like, we do one drop that's the catalog. So you can get like the yearly updated catalog. And then we've been doing some lines different throughout the year. Whoever artist that comes our way and we're like, oh, we like your design. So that's cool too. We did do a calendar this year. That was our first art calendar, and it's all based off the packets, and that sold pretty well. So trying to integrate the artwork into other merch ideas beyond just, something you can just hang up on a wall versus a shirt you could wear, or you're like, yes, advertise for us. That's why our marks were like, okay, we gotta put Asheville, like we're like, it's hard when you're designing stuff like that. You're like, okay, I don't want this to be too much, but you want people to know who you are. And it's like, okay, this is a real thing you can look up, not just like some cute saying. So that's been like a process of navigating, and it's crazy. Yeah, it's a lot to think about. When it's fun when you're like, oh, that looks cute, but you're like, is this gonna sell? There's a whole other side.
I mean, I'm a lot more likely to pick something up, especially if it's a seed. I mean, I'm very likely to pick up a seed packet regardless, but especially if it has something pretty on it.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And it does a lot better in the store when people can look at everything visually. I'm surprised some of the stuff people order offline, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you ordered this? And I'm like, you don't even know what it really looks like, but that's cool.
So we've brought up the concept of local seed a few times now, but can you speak a little bit to the importance of why specifically local seed matters so much?
If people know a lot about the seed industry, they know about seed houses and where certain types of seed is grown in the country, does better in the country. And then, of course, there's this whole sector of like seeds coming over from China and stuff. So that's why I think some seed is not regionally adapted. So it's a tried and true variety, but who knows how well it's going to do for you. So that I think is the bigger importance about growing things that are more localized to your climate, especially here in Asheville. I mean, we're in a rainforest. We're in the temperate rainforest. So it's a pretty unique climate for our country. We're not like the arid deserts like it is out west. So you need varieties that can really stand up to the humidity. A lot of disease comes through here. So varieties that can stand. That's why I was mentioning that South Anna butternut earlier, just because of how well it does against the disease. And it was bred here in this area, so of course it's going to do better. But by saving seeds year after year from those varieties, it's getting that much more adapted every year. It's not like, oh, I'm just okay, I got all the seed I need for this. It's like you have to keep moving forward with that. And that's what's cool about the farmer program, because we only get so much seed we need for like 2 years at a time, that we can keep things growing out every other year. Depending on how popular things are, sometimes I need to grow it out every year in the supply that we can get. So yeah, just the genetics around regionally adapted it just leads to better success for people.
So we already kind of talked about how Sow True Seed is woman-owned, employee-owned. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the company goes about like integrating accessibility and diversity into the gardening space?
Yes. So I mean, we believe that everyone who wants to garden should be able to garden, regardless of space, expertise, budget, background. And the way to follow through is having a practical options for our customers. So this, like I was talking about earlier, the ability to have free access to free information. I mean, even if you have a smartphone, you can look at the blog. Or even, if you're able to come in the store and talk with any of us, you can pretty much get a gardening lesson if you'd like. So yeah, free and accessible information for people is, that's like pretty top tier for us. And also if you get a catalog, that is also full of, little bits of information especially each like detailed variety description about how things will grow. And then if you are subscribed to the newsletter, that's another great way to get access to information. Just kind of reminding you of what to be doing for the time of year, any special drops that we have, something, you don't want to miss out on. So, and then also how I wanted to talk about like how expensive things can be. Some of our products, we have a range of things that we offer. Yeah, some is like really top tier and some people buy that, but we make sure to also have like bottom tier products for people when we can make that happen. A top tier product I talk about is our soil that we have in-house, Dartcraft Organics. They make the best soil, but their soil is expensive. So we're not the best resource for soil unless you want Dartcraft, but that's expensive and that's not accessible to people. I mean, maybe you could sprinkle a little bit in each of your pots to make sure you got a good mix going on top of maybe something else you got. We try to give people ideas of, okay, go like locally. I tell people where to go buy bags of soil. It's cheap and organic. I'm like, okay, here's where I go because this $30 a bag is cute, but it's expensive and it can be for people who can afford it, and that's fine. But yeah, just like not being ashamed to talk about that, because that is a thing with some people, and some people have the best intentions coming in and they want things to go well and they're on a budget. So it's kind of like even more pressure for them to make sure things go well. So trying to help people with their expectations as well is a big thing, especially when you can have one-on-one conversations with people of like, okay, don't, because it's easy to go too big at it and then things can fall apart quickly. So I think a big one is, managing expectations for people to have a positive experience, because accessibility is one thing, but if you don't have a good time around it, it's never working for you. Like, how are you going to gain knowledge from that? So that's another part of it. I think the education piece is huge. Just what we do in the community, in the collaboration we have, that's another part about integrating accessibility. The fact that we donate thousands of seed packets to, programs who don't have a budget to even buy packets, trying to get people going. Yeah, it looks like a lot of it's going to schools, seed libraries, and community gardening projects. And then our local supporters that we work with, Southside Community Farm, that is a big one. We actually donate a lot of time to them in the summer. We're pretty tight with the garden manager there, Kate. She comes in all the time and buys seeds. She used to actually work for us and help us in the off season, or her off season. So it's great to support that community, because that's one of the most historical gardens in Asheville, with just like the diversity there within that community and helping the garden survive. This past year, their land's being threatened, taken from them, yada yada. We also work with Bountiful Cities, ASAP, Organic Grower School. So, I mean, it's great. It's pretty crazy to have all these big organizations within Asheville and the impact that they make for the area we're in. That's one thing that I am thankful about, is being in this hub. It's like Sow True can really survive in an area like this, because there is just so much demand for it.
I guess to take this conversation to a little bit of a different place, talking about food is a staple of any society's culture, and most food comes from a seed at some point, meaning seeds are not just a handful of potential plants. They often carry with them an entire history and can be quite culturally significant in and of themselves. So in a society where a lot of our food does come from a handful of industrialized varieties that are available at the grocery store, what does it mean to you to be able to maintain these culturally significant varieties and maintain the public's connection to food resources that they might not otherwise have?
It's very important. Almost, it kind of feels, it's like the weight on your shoulders, like the responsibility of keeping these seeds. I mean, that's why when I try and get things grown out, we got a list of farmers, some better than others. That's all right. So yeah, making those choices, making sure that we can still get access to the seed. There's some varieties I'm like, I want to get grown out, but it's our last little bit of seed. And it's like, all right, like, don't want this to get messed up because I don't have access to this anymore. So understanding that and feeling that, where you're like, oh, this is the end of that. Like, unless I can get it from the other source again, but sometimes it's not like that. I think that's why it's important to have the open source seed policy with that, so that you can keep getting things grown out by someone different based on what they can do and their availability. But yeah, having very local varieties. I mean, people love the greasy beans. That's a huge thing for around here. But that's just something that's like, pretty regional for this area. But I don't know, like, what other, you know, West Coast catalogs you're going to see with a bunch of greasy beans in it. So keeping varieties like that alive, things that people have historically grown up with in this area in particular, it's really important to keep those varieties going. But also not just us in the seeds that our farmers produce, but also buying from other producers who are in the area to keep their operations going, and supporting them in growing these really extremely rare seed varieties. I will do a plug for it's a new collective group that's going on here. It's the Appalachian Seed Growers Collective, and that is just trying to bundle farmers together and essentially like pulling all their resources of farmers to have these better guaranteed crops, money that's coming in, but also the whole goal of the collective is to grow things that are regionally adapted and culturally important to this area. They're not just, going to grow anything, but it is nice to have a group of people like that who are so involved that they don't want these varieties to go away. So it's just like encouraging to see that level of people who are taking this seriously, who are like, okay, we're going to form like a whole group about this, and we're going to divvy up these contracts and make sure that these seed varieties are being preserved and people are getting good knowledge about them and they're being put out in the public for people to be able to buy.
I feel like even just the fact that you guys have like seed saving resources on your website says a lot about like the stance on that too, like how you feel about it. But it's a good thing. Something we really respect about Sow True Seed is that you openly recognize that you operate on Cherokee land. Can you share with us the importance the Cherokee have played and continue to play in stewarding a diversity of native southeastern plants?
Yeah, there's a few things I can say about that. We've worked directly with the Cherokee Nation. They've come in the shop a few times. They buy a lot of stuff from us. One thing that they were a big, like, you've got to change this. And we're like, we're going to do it. The Carl's glass gem corn, everybody knows about, they hate that Carl's name is in that. That's not like the appropriate, like, paying respect where respect is due. So that is one big thing like we did this year, just nixed Carl, he's gone. So trying to pay respect to them about how they want things correctly displayed and variety names. So we do respect that. And some of the sacred medicinal herbs that they grow, paying them really fair prices for these things. Some of it is like still a little controversial, like other varieties that are, affect more like the Southwest tribes, for example, like white sage. Like, that's one that is a little controversial for people to sell. It just kind of depends on the source that you're getting that seed from. But I can say, we have a really positive relation with the Cherokee Nation. The fact that they come and buy stuff from us and we give them a great discount, like, it's just encouraging. They're not like against any of the things that we're doing. We're trying to work with them and make sure that we're adequately displaying the information as they want it to be told. So yeah, I guess that's what I can say about that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how Sow True Seed sources their seeds?
Okay, so sourcing of the seed, number one, everything's got to be open pollinated. Number two, everything is non-GMO. And number three, the seeds cannot be treated. Like sometimes you'll see seeds coated. And some of that can be okay. It could be like, for example, like if you're trying to do some clover, and sometimes you'll see like the clover coated. It could be for helping the seed break down and sprout. But some of it's not good. Some of it is like straight up chemically treated. So those are like the first three big requirements. And all the larger seed houses that we do order from, we order for them because of that. We are like playing. It's kind of funny. Since it's my first year of having to put together all the orders, and I see who I can't get things from. I mean, also like expense is a big part of this. Like some of those larger warehouses, like it is cheaper to get the seed from them. I don't think that that's something like people need to be shy about talking about. We do pay our farmers, you know, at least what I think is, it could be better, of course, everything could be better. It is still like a pretty fair wage for their expenses and everything that they're having to put into it. And I mean, it's something that we can still make money on top of. Like we're not a 501c. So we have to make money. And with supplying seeds, that is a huge part of it. You have to have a huge cost spreadsheet, and I go in and plug in like how much the seed is per pound, and then it calculates like what is our profit margin on that. So you have to stay within some of it. But yeah, it's kind of fun when I can't find a variety, because then I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna get a farmer to grow this. Like for example, this is it's on the Slow Foods Arc of Taste, the Georgia rattlesnake watermelon. Like we can get it from a big seed house, but they're not going to have it till 2026 because of some of their crop failures. So it shows like how delicate and fragile the system can be when it's like a guaranteed crop that they've had in their catalog, but then it's like, oh, we won't have this available because they clearly had a crop failure. So that's kind of step one, is seeing like who I can get it from. And then if I can't find anyone, then it's, okay, do we have the seeds? In a lot of our contract farmers, we send the seed to them. It's a guaranteed, like, okay, we know the source of this seed. It's either organic or it's conventional. And sometimes the farmer has seed stock, and that's fine too. But that's also another thing I have to consider is like, okay, do I have to order more of this seed in a small amount just to get it to the farmer? Because some seeds I do have to just order in packets from other small seed companies because nobody sells it in bulk. But that's like another, pointing back to the open source seed pledge and initiative, is that you can do that. It's like, oh, I can go order this pack of lima beans that I need. I can order several packs, get like the half pound that I need growed out, and then the farmer can take it from there. So it does put a lot of pressure on you to make sure you're selecting the right farmer for what we need grown, kind of like what does well with them, because some people have space limitations. Like the deer have been a huge problem. Like if people just don't have don't want to put in all that infrastructure. So it's like selecting things that do well for other growers. I think this year we're going to have over like 80 varieties that we're going to do with local farmers this year. So that's pretty good. And we don't order every variety every year. That is not, you go crazy doing that. I mean, I was looking at, because I'm trying to come up with prices for every seed packet we offer. So sometimes you're having to go back through and look at invoices from like 2012. There's this one amaranth, they bought like pounds of it. And we have, it'll be through the end of the company. It'll be like, so that's kind of funny to see varieties like that you're like, well, we haven't had to buy this in like over a decade. So, but the goal is for me to buy roughly what we think we're going to sell for 2 years at a time, because you have to worry about germination. If something goes beneath the federal limit, we cannot sell it. You can sell it stating it's packed heavier to meet like what would be a percentage. But I don't really like doing that, because it's always such like a topic for people to blame the seed company for bad germination, and then you're going to go and put that out there. So we try not to do that too much.
I was just going to say, like, one of my favorite things about your website is that it has like when you do have those farms, they're listed on the description of them. And that's really cool to be able to like look up where the farm is. And a lot of them are like local to our region. And I really like being able to see that.
That's a big project. I don't get started about updating products. I'm like, it is wild how much stuff is on there. And then like things that have just been there for a long time, and you're like, I've gotta look at this. But yes, I try to keep that update as possible.
What goes into selecting each specific variety that you guys want to offer?
Oh my gosh, you get, being like in this job and having all these contacts, you get offered way more stuff than like, I don't really have to look for things per se. I just have people wanting, because a lot of people have overages. Like, there's not, you're not going to grow like the 20-pound exact contract that you need. You may got 50 pounds. Now you need to get rid of 30 pounds. So that's been hard for me. I've been having to tell a lot of people no, just because we have so much of some seed to sell through before we can take on so many more new varieties. Because I was the warehouse operations manager and I did all the online orders, like, we have a pretty extensive pick line that we use and everything's alphabetical. It's nice having that experience because you think through every piece of adding something new and doing this and changing that. And it's like, of course you have to do those things, but it is nice to have that context of the inner workings of the company to know, like, what does that exactly mean when you start doing all these changes? Or so you try to have a little bit of respect for who all else it's going to impact. And is it like the best thing to be bringing on? A lot of what I've been focusing on kind of in my time wanting to do this and doing this role is the more upping our perennial native flowers. Like, a big goal of the company is growing food, of course. But I mean, a whole nother piece of it is if we don't have the pollinators to pollinate the food adequately, then what are we doing? So that's been a huge source. And I've been able to source some local perennial seed from one grower in particular in Burnsville, Mountain Gardens. Jeff, he's great. He's been getting, like, this year we're adding Rattlesnake Master. He does indigo as well. And I mean, some of these seeds, like, we're paying like $2 or $3 a gram for these seeds just because they're so intense to process. So it's great to have people like that who are willing to even do that work, because native seed processing is pretty intense. I mean, seed processing in general is, you got to have some of the right tools and experience, but it can be, I'm just like, I couldn't imagine just sitting there like tweezing through everything. I've done some of my own native seed harvest and I'm like, okay, this is as good as it's gonna get. It wouldn't be clean enough to go send to a seed company. But that's a big thing that I'm working on this year, is trying to bring in as many realistic pollinator varieties as a garden maybe should have. I'm not gonna like just overdo the catalog with it, but I think I don't feel like it's not like the pollinator bandwagon, but it's a vital part of the system and you cannot ignore it. Like, I think that was also one of my biggest pleasures this summer, was all the pollinators on the flowers. I was like, man, I don't care about these squash. Like, this is awesome. Like, it was just such pure entertainment. So it's just knowing that you're a part of that ecosystem and supporting those pollinators is huge. And just having more perennial things established in people's gardens that isn't grass, and potentially could be like easier for them to maintain than having to mow stuff every other week. That's what I'm doing right now in my garden and yard, is converting some of the grass to perennial flowers so I don't have to deal with it. Especially if you live somewhere where you don't have an HOA. I'm like, why aren't people doing this? But it can be tricky to get set up. I think the perennial flowers is a little bit next level. It's not just like for the novice gardener. You really got to pay attention to, when do you put the seeds out? Like, actually doing a big newsletter on Thursday about buying those seeds, because you need to be doing that like now. Instead of, we have people who want to do the meadow. And I'm like, you better have 3 years for the meadow and acquire, some money for some seed. It does not happen in just 1 year. So yeah, I'm excited about bringing on more perennial flower varieties, and then also working with more local farmers about varieties that are doing well for them, maybe phasing out some other ones that were like, this was fun, but this could take a bit more precedent. So yeah, it's always changing. Oh my gosh. I feel like our bean selection, we have like 10 staples, but then like 20 that are constantly changing. It just depends on what we get. So yeah, that's kind of like a little tricky to keep up with everything that's going on. I'm dedicated to making pollinator friendly spaces in just backyard gardens.
I know at the beginning of this, I was like, oh, this sounds like my dream job, but I feel like I'd have such a hard time saying no, because every time I see like a new seed variety, I'm like, oh yeah, like, let's take this one on, let's get this one, let's get this one. Oh, yeah. So I feel like I'd probably be bad at this job.
Oh yeah, I was like, from the beginning, and it's funny because our other warehouse inventory manager, Mary, she's the one that like reels me in, because she's the one that's kind of like, make the packet, do the SKU, get it on the pick line, I make all the products on the website, so I bear that brunt. I'm like, okay, how many more products do I need to make? Or like, because it's also hard for especially some of these like more lesser known varieties to get adequate information about it or even right information. Oh, don't let alone a picture. If you don't have a picture, I don't want to do it. I'm like, it's just kind of not fair in a way. It's like content is a huge part of this too. And some growers, I'm like, we do pay money for pictures. I'm not just like, give this to me for free, but oh my gosh, if you don't have a picture, it's not going to sell. And it's like, what's the point of that? So yeah, that's another thing I've been really upping is like trying to get pictures in for us.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like our YouTube viewers. They're like, show us the pictures.
Oh, it's hard. It is not easy. Even for us personally, it's so true. I'm like, I know we all got some pictures, but like, yeah, it's hard to put all that together sometimes.
How did the hurricane impact Sow True Seed as a company? And also, what was it like to be a small local business within the Asheville community immediately post-hurricane?
Thankfully, for us, really minimal impacts. Like that is just purely is what has happened to us. When the hurricane first happened, the not having communication, that was pretty crazy. It was like we're so used to we have an internal messaging Slack and like none of that. I mean, of course nothing would load. So it was like, oh gosh, like this is our most and we all have each other's phone numbers. That's been another rule we've had to establish throughout the company is like when you start, you have to get everybody's phone numbers. Because stuff like this, like, you don't really just lose all your communication, but sometimes it happens. And then we started like, oh my gosh, we don't have people's addresses. Like, because some people were able to get out and they're like, I'm going to go check on people. I was like, okay, I can't get across the airport because the bridge is flooded. So I'm chilling over here. But it was kind of getting to that level for some people because they could, like, finally we got a group text going with everyone on it. But, some people were still MIA. So that was getting a little weird. But thankfully, within like the first week or so, we were able to get everything established. We were able to have like a group phone call, whoever could get on it. The way that we are as a company and wanting to be flexible and respectful, this was a terrible thing that happened to our community. And especially like as a person who loves the outdoors, I've spent a lot of time on the French Broad and like it's just really sad to see that happen on a personal level. It's devastating for the community. So there's a lot of like grief around it for some of us. And it was, gosh, we had just finished that Thursday because I guess, yeah, it hit on Friday. And on Friday, we're all like, okay, we'll see what happens. Like, sometimes you don't take it as seriously, but I don't think there's more that we could have done to be prepared for something like this. Like, I was thinking about like the pipe factory where all the pipe flew down the river. I was like, what were they going to do? Like, start shipping things out weeks? Like, it's just unrealistic for people to be saying some of that stuff. But yeah, thankfully, we were able to close So True for 2 weeks. Everybody got paid during that time to like get it together. We did encourage people to donate their time where they could. I went up to Burnsville and donated some time sorting stuff up there at a school. Some people were working at the Civic Center. And, some people were just trying to get it back together. Thankfully, none of our employees directly, like any of their houses were affected or no one had flooding. It was just more like trying to take care of personal things and their family members. So yeah, we were able to shut down for 2 weeks. But right before that, we had just finished packing all of our garlic and we ship out about 2,000 garlic orders. So that next day we were going to start shipping. But that didn't happen. Most of the garlic was okay. A lot of the shallots got a little weird. Mostly just because they needed to be planted. So we had some issues there and had to refund people. We were able to get operations back. And then it started this process of we shipped things out, but then it was a lot. We have a lot of local pickup orders that happen where people, you can buy your garlic in January and say you're going to come pick it up in October. And we don't have garlic in January, so we hold everything. And then it became this really extensive process of contacting all like 200 local pickup people and being like, do you have a garden? Are you still here? Like, and just that, we did the best we could and gave refunds where they were needed, but I mean, I was still surprised to see how many people were like, yeah, I'm still good. Like, I'm looking forward to this. And so it was nice to see that even though this destruction had happened, like people were still excited about gardening. I mean, it was probably giving a lot of people hope at that time, something to look forward to. But yeah, I mean, our business is located like a half a mile away from the river, where like if you just went down Clingman, like the river's right there. And we don't own the building, we do rent. So we're always kind of like keeping our eyes open for something potentially we could purchase one day. And some of that space was down there. So it definitely makes you think about being a business owner and like, I mean, if our inventory would have been destroyed, like, yeah, you have insurance on it, but as we all know, like some of that doesn't pay out fully. And I mean, I even know local business owners who had flood insurance and still didn't get paid out appropriately. So, you do the best you can, but it does make you think about stuff like that. You're like, okay, not going to go near a river if we can, like probably going to stay in this like pretty high space. I don't know. It's like messed up to think like that. And then I think for me, like, and I know other people within the company have been feeling this, is like, it's like a survivor's guilt thing. It's weird. It's like we're super grateful and super appreciative. But with that, we're able to donate 20% of our sales for, I think we did it for like almost a month. And we were able to raise $12,000 that went to Be Loved and Roar of Asheville. So that was money that that was people from all over the country putting in their orders. Like, we're encouraging people to order, even though that's not really a time of year that people buy a lot of seeds. But the amount of sales that we got from that, just because people were wanting to support us, knowing that their money was going to go to hurricane relief. We even have a lot of people who bought gift cards and were like, I'm not going to use this gift card. I'm just donating it. And it's like, oh my gosh, like the amount of our gift card sales during that time, just like giving people a way to donate directly to and then even local farmers who are growing seed for us, some of them just donated their whole seed contract. They're like, I don't want to pay for this. Send the money to the hurricane relief. So a lot of people's hearts were in the right place. It was pretty crazy. And it's still like, anytime I have a conversation with someone outside of the state, it's still like a point of conversation. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this happened. Like, this is terrible. And I'm just happy that we're okay and we can still support the community. But you have to be like careful about things that you say, places that you used to recommend people to are not there, like southern states, down by, what was that, next to the music venue there, that came up the other day in the store, and it was like, southern state's not there anymore, like I can't go get this. And it's like, oh my gosh. So it is going to be interesting to see what all was damaged and where people are going to have to go for these supplies that they're used to getting from these places. So yeah, it does. I think the survival guilt feels a little weird for me right now. You want the company to do well, you want to be prosperous, but like some people just lost it all, and then that may be the total end for their business. It's like they can't come back out of that. And I'd be curious, like it's like it does make you think about those scenarios. It's like, could we have come back out of that? Like, who knows? But yeah, it is just, and especially living here my whole life and seeing that. Seeing that level of water. And I mean, I'd seen Biltmore flood a few times, but not to this level. Yeah, that was pretty. And out here in Brevard, it was like, I mean, a lake in the cornfields, and we're the headwaters of the French Broad. So it was like, oh my gosh, all this has to go down to Asheville. And thankfully, like the damage was less here, but it was, yeah, just pretty intense. That was a tragedy. And I don't think the community, we can handle much more. I'm like, we need a chill year. Like, and the amount of contracts like that were crop failures because of that, like that was frustrating it was just frustrating for a lot of people. It's like farmers who wanted to do a good job, but then like everything was too wet. You couldn't dry any of your seeds, or it was so dry before, and now we get this torrential rain and everything's just kind of gone. That's been interesting to navigate for me. It's like it's like you have to give those people another shot who still have the ability to want to grow. So yeah, that's been just things to take into consideration, how the landscape literally has changed.
So it's kind of on a similar note to this, and your answer might have changed since the hurricane, I suppose. But what is it like, or like, what does it mean to the company of Sow True Seed, or you specifically, like you in particular, to be a part of Asheville community and like the greater community of Western North Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, the hurricane definitely showed how, I mean, like nice people are here and just like wanting to take care of their community. I mean, all the stories I was reading from like people who came in or these disaster relief efforts and like how great the community was to work here and like how quick people are to like help one another. I mean, that's pretty telling. It's kind of like happenstance, the place you get to be born. It's not in your control, but I think it's pretty crazy for me to be in a place that I've wanted to stay and that so many people desire to live. It's like, um, feel very blessed and fortunate for that. But also to have the food scene that we have here. I mean, that's a huge part of my life and what keeps me connected. It's beyond like the nature that's here, but that there's this many people who want to have control over growing their own food and is not just going to let corporate America take their lives away from them. I mean, that's essentially a huge movement, Asheville, like supporting small businesses and I mean, all these initiatives of people to not just keep being a cog in that wheel. Asheville's trying to be something else. And it is for so many other aspects. It's like the LGBTQ movement and rights, and like so many people, this is a safe haven for them to live. So solely because they can be accepted. So it's just the acceptance of the community, how much people care about one another here, and just like how great this place is to live. Some places are not as great. And of course, there's things in any place that can be improved on, but the hurricane really showed that. I think people are starting to lose sight of that a little bit because Asheville, the downtown, the landscape is changing and all the breweries and some of that, but that it may have like checked some of that a little bit. But yeah, just like the force that the community has here is pretty strong.
So, do you have any advice for beginner gardeners who might be maybe intimidated by trying to grow from seed?
Yeah, like I said, do the easy ones. Don't do the hard stuff. Some people, I don't know, is it like a challenge? Some people are like, I'm gonna go conquer tomatoes. Okay, tomatoes, another garden misconception. Too hard. Come on, people. It has the most blight, the most disease. Like, it's just very, but everybody's like, I mean, in every seed order, it's like the tomato is there. And I'm like, good luck. Like, I tried to grow some this year and ended up ripping all of them out. I was just like, I'm done with this. Like, this is not that easy. So yeah, don't set yourself up for failure. Buy what you need. Don't go too crazy because then if things don't work out, then you could probably have a lot of money wrapped up in something. Um, yeah, I mean, an easy way to start out is just by getting like the grow bags. We carry them. I mean, I love the 20-gallon ones. You can fit about a bag and a half of soil in one. And like, I grew so much ginger out of those this year. I probably had like 10 pounds of ginger I harvested, if not more. But you can grow sweet potatoes in them. You can grow so much stuff in one of those cute little bags. And you can do beans, you can do squash. But yeah, any of like the direct seeded stuff, I don't think I'd start with like going extreme and buying the grow lights and doing the whole setup until maybe you could get a little bit of experience with just watering the seed appropriately for it to germinate outside. I think you should do that step one. If you cannot get a seed to germinate outside, you probably don't need to be buying grow lights and doing the whole thing inside because you can't commit to what it takes. I think that's like the biggest. It's like, all right, if you want to take that big summer vacation, probably should think about who's going to water your garden and just like where those priorities lie. But yeah, I think that's my advice as a beginning gardener. Try something easy and make sure you can get it to sprout out of the soil outside, not in your artificial environment inside, and prove to yourself that you can do it.
You guys sell like plant starts in the spring too?
Oh yeah, So that's good. That's a way better source than dang Lowe's. Oh my gosh, don't get me started. So yeah, if you're able to buy local, we don't have a way to ship them appropriately. They would just break. But I think the spring ones are going to be coming like sometime in March. The greenhouse, we already sent them all the seeds, so they're starting them. And we get them grown out by a local nursery, Green Mountain. They're actually in Tennessee, like right over the border, but local enough. And they do everything organically. They're also a connection that one of the other owners, there's a college here in Asheville, Warren Wilson, and that is like a farming oriented college. I will say some of our best employees have come from Warren Wilson just because of like the community aspect they teach there. And like, those are just like some of the dedicated, hardworking people. Plug for Warren Wilson. But a connection she had there, and then these people started their own nursery. So now they grow some of the best plant starts. They're so beautiful. We just send them the seeds and the variety and like how much we need grown out. So we do spring, and then we do a big summer plant sale. That's going to be the first week of May. We already have to figure out the dates for all this. And then in the fall, we do a bunch of plant starts. So that's great access for people. But then, of course, we don't do anything that you should direct seed, really. We try not to do that. Some of the squashes we do, just because you can get a little bit of a head start on that, but no beans and okra you're going to find at our seed starts.
I was just thinking, like, that's if somebody's too nervous to start things from seed and you're local, like, you could go.
Yeah. Great way to go about it. And then, being able to talk to people there, any of the nurseries, like you can ask any of those people, or you should be able to ask them. So I'm like, come on, like part of this, like, I think that is a challenging piece for us. We talk about a lot in the store because sometimes we just like felt like we were having an issue for a while, like with some of our customers, and like how this industry in particular, like, this is more of a knowledge-based industry. This isn't like I'm going to go buy a piece of clothes, like a shirt at H&M, and I'm going to go try it on. Like at the garden shop, there's a lot of conversation that happens, and it's just a very different industry. And like you should be open to having those conversations. You can't expect that people know everything, and especially with some information online, you're like, how do I know if I can trust this or not? So yeah, that's the thing.
So quiz your local nurseries. Go there and talk to them. Make sure they know what they're doing.
Yeah, you'll go find the new person there, but I'm sure you can find the garden manager.
Okay, so the last question we have is, what are the ways that we can support you? Obviously, you have the store in Asheville, but not everyone has access to Asheville. Yeah. Like not everyone's nearby. So what are the other ways that we can support you or just keep up with you, like social media, website, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram and Facebook, and we are way more present on there than we've ever been. So it's fun to see what small drops we got going on, or just things we're trying to promote on there. So we do ship like pretty much 90% of the inventory all over the country. So even if you want some local gardening product from Asheville, you can get it sent to your place in California or Oregon. So that's another great way to support some of the local community in Asheville. We don't take like donations or anything because that goes against for-profit companies. But just keeping up and doing your own seed saving. I think that's the most important piece to all of this, is using the information that we're putting out there for all y'all for free. And then another great way of supporting us is sending in pictures. I think getting like real photos of people's gardens versus like these, crazy images you can pay for online. Like that's like a fun thing that we love getting in the summer when it's slow, and like, versus like people complaining about things, being like, this isn't right, or this didn't germinate. It's like, it's nice to get something that's like, this did really well for me. I used this blog post, just some affirmation is great too, that, we're providing products that people like. You definitely hear a lot in any industry, you're going to hear more of the negative, but it's nice to see some of those positives, because we'll share some of that internally. If Hannah gets a nice message from someone of like, these were the best beans I ever grew. It's like, it's really nice for us to see that stuff. and encouraging. But yeah, Instagram, Facebook, the websites, oh my gosh, we did secure a pretty big loan this year to pay off the company directly to the previous owner, and then also get some money for a new website upgrade, more of like the style of the website and stuff. So that'll be fun. Hopefully that will all happen by like beginning of summer is our plan for that. But it is, the banner's always changing. We're trying to keep it up to date of like what you should be doing now. And I mean, of course, it's subjective to your frost date, but it's all pretty relative within a few weeks of each other, depending on what zone you're in. So yeah, keeping up with on the website and seeing what products are new. And oh yeah, getting on the newsletter. That one's really good. We love for the newsletter list to grow. If you get on the newsletter and you've been like a recent person within the past few years, we send you a catalog automatically. So that's another good way. You can go online on the website and subscribe to get a free catalog that will send to you if you want to get some more information and just kind of check us out before doing a purchase. Online, we do, if you spend $50 or more, you get free shipping. Doesn't matter where you live. So definitely take advantage of that. Don't feel like just because, I mean, the shipping on one seed packet, it's like a base rate thing. So you might as well get a few seed packets. It's still going to be $6 or $7 regardless. So yeah, that's the best ways to support us, and try and look for those small farmer grown varieties on the website. Those are really important to keep buying just because of the price point we pay farmers and to keep those varieties going. I mean, your Black Beauty zucchini or Clemson spineless okra is great, but it's nice to diversify your garden and the grower.
I really love the idea of people sending you pictures and whatnot. Like, those are morale boosters too, not just like monetary.
That's so important for us. It's like I said, I feel bad for the customer service manager just because customer service is in and of itself is a hard job. That is the biggest thing. Even for myself, I'm like, gosh, I gotta have better pictures. And like labeling all the pictures of like, this was this variety or this. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, thank you, Brooke, so much for taking the time to talk with us. This was truly, genuinely a very educational conversation. And I feel like even though I have more seeds than I could ever honestly need, I learned a lot, and I appreciate that. And thank you so much.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for getting us out there. It's still astonishing to me. I mean, we're trying, but a lot of locals still don't know about us or people who live in Asheville. So anything we can do to get, people to come to us, even if you don't end up buying something, it's still just fun to go to the garden shop.
I mean, who can go to a garden shop and not buy something, though?
I know. I'm like, get out of here. The conversion rate's awesome. You can't leave without buying a sticker. I'm like, yeah.
All right, I think that's a good place to end. But yeah, thank you so much. Seriously, I enjoyed this. I learned a lot, and it was really fun to like meet you. And I want to go to the store and pick out more seeds, even though I have more than I need to plant.
Yeah, totally. And if y'all are in there, see if I'm around. I'm in a few days a week. I'm around one way or another.
I will be, and I will be asking if your cat is there as well. That's definitely part of the plan. Thanks for joining us on this episode of She Said Homestead. We hope you enjoyed our chat. Before we say goodbye, we'd love to hear from you. Send your homesteading stories to us at shesaidhomestead@gmail.com. We can't wait to share them on the air. To stay connected, follow us on Instagram for updates and sneak peeks at what's coming up next.
If you like video podcasts, make sure you subscribe to the She Said Homestead YouTube channel too. We can't thank you enough for being part of the She Said Homestead community. Until next time, happy homesteading.